Hello, and we're back again for another episode of It's Time to Refresh with me, Brad Refresh. On this episode, we've got guest DJ, producer Andy Kelly. It's an absolute amazing episode. Straight into the It's Time to Refresh Hall of Fame. It is quality, so funny. For the next hour, you're just going to be belly laughing. I really enjoyed this one. If you'd like to hear more of the podcasts, then you can head over to our Facebook community group, which is It's Time to Refresh -community. Or you can follow us on Instagram at It's Time to Refresh. Thank you for your continued support. It's just growing more and more each week. And I really appreciate everyone who shares it and who listens.
Hey kids, what time is it?
It's time to refresh.
Just like the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Except that you won't shit in my bed, so I won't shit in your bed.
Yeah,
No.
I'm not really into that. That's not my thing.
So today's guest we've got Andy Kelly, DJ Andy K back in the day, back in the Fusion days.
God, I haven't been called that in a while.
I know. Well, yeah, mate, it's we go back to go forward.
Yeah.
Saying that, where did you start off at? I know it's very stereotypical, but I just want to get the story going. I just want to know your background within music.
This might get a bit hazy. My memory's not so great.
Yeah.
So it started 1999. Just got into DJing. Got a set of really crappy decks. You know, you always get a set like belt drives or something.
Yeah.
And I went to see Dave Coates. He owned a club in Workington called ISIS.
Yeah.
So I give him a tape. At the time, there was no CDs, mini discs. Well, there was maybe mini discs and stuff, but I gave him a mixtape to maybe try and get a gig. You know, get your foot in the door kind of thing. And lo and behold, next couple of days after, he called me up and said, come down. I think I was only 18 at the time or something, 19 maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went in, played a half an hour set or something. I maybe only had 50 records at the time, maybe not even that many, enough to do a little set, 30 or something. So yeah, kind of just went from there.
How did you get into it at the beginning? Like where did the love of music come from? Like I know that's your first gig, but where
I went to Forum. Remember that?
No, man.
It was Lily Hall, I think it was.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, I do know that club actually.
I think I was 17, 16 or something.
Some big DJs played there, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They had like QFX, QTech, stuff like that.
So and that was like your sort of entry point into it.
Well, I just used to go there with a few mates, you know, use a fake ID and because I think I was maybe only 17 at the time, going to Forum. So I would go in there and the DJ, every week, he would always play Run DMC. I would always hear it getting mixed into the same tune every single weekend. I think it was like a Mel C tune or something.
Right.
And I would walk around the club and I would hear this Mel C tune and then I would hear Run DMC coming in, and over the next few weeks or months or however long it was, he would do the same thing. And I started thinking, there's got to be a reason why it's coming in at the same time. So I went to the DJ box and started watching what he was doing and noticed that he was setting it off at a certain point, and I started figuring stuff out. So that's really when I decided, right, I'm going to get a set of decks and see if my little weird theory works.
Yeah, see if you can duplicate.
And see if what I was thinking about mixing, if that is how you do it, and if it is, I'll probably stick with it and see how it goes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got a set of decks and.
So you did that gig and stuff like that. What were you playing at the gig? What was on the tape?
Stuff like Dahool, Meter at the Love Parade, Commisera, anything that was big. Around about that time, Grease 2000, Beach Ball, that was on there.
I've said that on this on every episode so far, but like you were just 18 and 19 at the right time, like 1999, 2000. Every time I say this, it's just fucking the glory.
It was right before. So when I got into ISIS, there was another lad that was with us, Sean Wilson. He came along with us, and it was around about that time when I got into ISIS, Fusion had just either been built and was launching, or it was a few months, or maybe 4 or 5 months before New Year's Eve 2000, New Year's Eve. So I had just got into ISIS. Sean was with us, and Fusion was just starting to launch. We didn't know any of them lot, like Millsy, Simon, Vinyl Man. They were running Industry, so they just started Fusion.
Yeah.
So obviously we were losing numbers in our club, and they were all going to Fusion because it was a new nightclub.
Yeah.
So at the tail end of that's when I got into ISIS, was at the tail end of when it was closing. I think I was only in there maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7 months, and then it closed, but the owner just kept it open. Well, he didn't keep it open, but it was officially closed, and we would just go in, lock the doors, go upstairs, put the tunes on, nobody could hear us, and we would just party all night.
That's what it's essentially a house party, wasn't it? That's what it is.
Pretty much, yeah. So I think I got asked to play at Fusion on New Year's Eve 2000. That was my official foot in the door.
So
over
how
there.
did that come about? Like, I know obviously they know you've been playing.
That came about because industry was maybe, I don't know if they were parting ways or something had happened, and the industry had stopped. Maybe like new managers took over. I can't really remember. As I say, my memory's quite foggy. So they had a new DJ in there called Tim J. He was like the head DJ.
Oh, so Dave come to you and said, "Oh, we've been asked to do this."
Yeah, well, it was like Dave said to me, "ISIS is closing, but I know Tim at Fusion. I kind of get on with Tim. I'll ask him if he can,
sort us out, sort of thing.
Get your foot in the door over there." So it was kind of like that. It wasn't like I gave them a mixtape or anything like that, and they wanted us because I was anything good. I was almost like a bad smell. I was just there all the time, and they had, you know what I mean? Yeah. They had no, they couldn't really, they were just like, oh, he's always here, let him have a go, you know, that type of thing. So that's how that worked out. And then I started, connected with Millsy, and we were partying and doing whatever we were doing. And ISIS kind of died down, and it was Fusion every week. And it just kind of snowballed from there.
So how did you get to know Millsy? I asked Millsy on the last podcast. So, like, did you have a mutual like for certain music, or
no, it was purely a DJ thing. He was in Fusion, I was in ISIS. We probably did meet, at that crossover point, but it was basically when I got to Fusion, Millsy sort of carried me in, kind of thing, give me a nice warm blanket, showed me the ropes, lent me equipment. I can remember one time I called him up. I'd only known him maybe, I don't know, a few months or whatever, and I called him up on a Sunday. He was having dinner with his girlfriend and his family, and I rang him and said, can you lend me a mixer? He just got a brand new DGM 500 with a flange button, and I pressed it one time, and it was the best thing I ever heard.
Yeah.
So I rang him and said, can you lend us your mixer? And he did. He dropped everything and dropped it off for us. He would just literally do anything for anyone. So that's how it kind of evolved from there. We were just like almost inseparable when we were at Fusion. We were doing everything together. We started Hard House together. We started producing together. We started gigging together. It was awesome.
Yeah.
One of the best, probably the best 10 years I've ever had.
I know, and understandable as well, because it's like, not that you've come up together, but like, you were breaking new ground together. Like, with Hard House and that, it was brand new round here. But like, you both had a crack at it at the same time, like producing a tune. He told me about In Your House.
That was the very first Hard House tune I had ever made. I was making, that was in 2004, and I started with Fruity Loops, sort of messing about with tunes in maybe 2001 or something. And my tunes before that, I can't really remember what it was. What's that? I think it was Scouse music and bounce and stuff like that. And I was getting like old vocals and making really crappy bounce tunes. And then Millsy rang me up and said, do you fancy making an Hard House tune? And I had never really listened to it. I think that was the first time I got introduced to Hard House.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's just big fat kick drums, big solid bass lines and hoovers. And I was like, well, what's a hoover? You're going to have to show us one of these. So he showed us what it was. I was like, oh, that's the sound in this tune or that tune or whatever. So we started messing about with some Hard House stuff. And I had a CD. It was an NWA CD that was on top of a speaker. I kind of turned to get something, and this CD fell on the floor, and I was like, oh, what's this? So I picked it up. It didn't have anything on it. It was just a blank CD. Put it in the computer, hit track one, and track one was, I can't remember what it was called. It started off with this sound of a girl in a house, and she was on the phone to the cops saying that there's somebody in her house. That was the start of the CD. I'm guessing it was like a little intro for this NWA CD. So I put it in, to see what it was. And I heard that and I was like, right, I'm going to rip that and put that in this hard house tune. And that's how I got the idea to make that in my house. It literally came from a CD falling on the floor by pure chance, yeah. So I kind of just plucked that little sample part. It was only about 9 seconds, maybe 8 seconds or something. Added a few hoovers, put a kick drum over it, made it sound really nasty and hard, and sent it off, and it got signed, which was absolutely insane at the time.
It's crazy looking back at it, like how some people were like, we'll be doing this, and it'd be like, or like constantly trying to get onto a certain label and sending tunes and just getting rejected. Yeah. And then you've come along and you've accidentally created.
Yeah, and I think still tune, back then, I don't think we weren't really pushing for labels, I don't think. I think because digital labels kind of just started up and everyone was bringing out a digital label, I think even me and Millsy had a digital label at one point. We were putting stuff out. Yeah. So it was so easy to do. But in terms of like labels like Vicious and Tidy, at least I knew back then that I could never ever get a tune out to that standard. I just knew I couldn't do that. But it was nice to get tunes out on small digital labels, especially back then. I was only 22, 23, and I had only been DJing maybe 3 or 4 years. So it was more about bragging rights. That's
it's getting your name out there as well. At the same time, like nobody knows who you are as a producer if you're not getting on labels that people recognise.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That in my house, it did boost mine and Millsy's sort of hard house journey. It did kind of lift that up a little bit. So that was all right. It got onto an album and sold a bunch of copies, and we made nothing from it. Yeah. In fact, I'm still £5 down on that deal. I had to buy my own record. They didn't even send us one.
Oh, that's nasty.
They didn't.
Nothing changes now. Like, I think there's only maybe like one label that even pays me, maybe, if that. And it's like, no, it's pathetic. Do you know, like...
Yeah, I've had some absolutely mental royalty checks, like, for 3 pence and
I've had that
16 pence. It's like, what? Why even send it? There's no point.
Yeah,
there really is no point.
It's not that there's no point. At least still send it. Like,
they should at least do a £50 limit, a threshold limit, so you'd have to, have more than £50 in sales before you get something. There's no point in sending 13 pence or whatever.
But honestly, like, it's always the same thing. This way I found it anyways. Like, when you release a tune, you maybe get it for the first 2 quarters, and then like I've had tunes on my label that of other people's, and I put it out, and then the next minute, like, it does its initial run of the first sort of quarter. It does, but it first
usually dies off after that.
It dies off, but then there's 1 or 2 tunes in particular that some for whatever reason get popular with streaming months and months down the line. Yeah, I could have been a shitty person. And
of course, yeah,
but
but you know what I mean. Like, you can't do that.
But then, like, I don't want to be that person who goes and chases, like, I know I released a tune with you like a year ago. Surely there's something like I know it's probably pence and whatnot.
Yeah,
but it's just like, because even now, like, if every quarter I get like royalty statements off my label, off the distributor, even if it's like 10, 12 quid off for an old tune that's getting decent streaming revenue, I'll still bank transfer it to the producer just out of, like, I'd like it to happen to me, but we're not all decent people. I'm not saying I'm a decent person either. I like to think I am. But so you obviously got on Infusion and that. What sort of tunes were you playing at this time?
We were playing
early on. I mean, like,
do you know, back then at the start of Fusion, we were playing trance. I'm pretty sure it was funky house and full big trance tunes like Delirium, Silence, Carte Blanche, all that. It was what was big at the time because that's what people knew. And then the Bounce and Donk and Scouse, and I think it was, if I remember rightly, it was Res Q and BCD Project and all them boys. They started bringing in bouncy stuff, and the trance sort of phased out because we didn't have anything sort of commercially sounding enough to keep up with it. Unless we recycled Delirium Silence every single week for about 10 years, it's not going to work. At some point, you've got to change and you've got to play stuff that people know because there's new people coming in and stuff.
Do you know what's mental? Like, and honestly, it's because obviously waves come and go and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
It's mental how like Mike DeScala's been on top for like 20 years. Like
It's crazy.
But,
Yeah.
no, like it's not even that his name. It's not his name that holds a thing.
Yeah.
He could bring it out as like BCD. You could bring it out as Res Q. He could bring it out as Recon in his hardcore music.
That guy has shaped a full scene. And
I know, but now they're camel fat. What the fuck? Like, he's obviously like there's something there within like because. Obviously, you make connections in all scenes. Like me and you aren't in the same scene.
Yeah.
But like, if I was to make a trance tune or a hard trance tune, I'd send it to you and say, "Is this the sort of style? Is this going in the right direction?" Or you'd send me a bounce tune, and we'd be like, "Is this what people are making?"
Yeah, because obviously I don't know. I don't know
exactly.
Yeah.
And I'd give you a thing. So you make your connections through music. But like for him to be able to dominate so many scenes in like, because honestly,
crazy.
I literally seen a status today of like. I would love it if Recon came back to hardcore for like 1 gig, and it's like, but it got like 200 comments on the thing. I'm like, he's obviously a fucking god wherever he goes.
Yeah, 100%.
Some people have just got it there.
Yeah.
But so you were playing like sort of you moved on to the bouncy stuff. Were you a fan of that stuff? Like,
yeah, at the time, I think it was when I first heard about Rob Kane. I first found a Rob Kane CD, and it had a little bit of scratching at the start. I was already kind of into scratching with listening to DJ Sai and stuff like that. But when I first heard Rob Kane, I was like, right, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's what sparked me off. So if I wanted to scratch like that, I need to start playing music like that as well.
right.
So I started researching what the tunes were, finding out what they were, and realising that guys like Ultra Beat and BCD Project and stuff like that were reworking stuff like Snap, Rhythm is a Dancer, which is perfect.
Yeah.
It's still old, it's still classic, but it's just been redone. And this is like now a new style of music that we can sort of get into. So trance kind of veered off one way, and Scouse House and a little bit of bounce started to drip feed in.
Took over the area, sort of say.
Yeah, and it was at one point it was a mix of 50-50, then it was 70-30, and then it was all bounce and Scouse and funky house and stuff. So
how did you find like the bounce stuff like as it took over? Were you embracing it as a new like commodity?
Yeah, because at the time it's all I knew. Like it was that and hard house, and obviously hard house was something that I did when I walked out of Fusion.
Yeah.
The only time hard house was ever in Fusion was if me and Millsy made a hard house tune at my house. We would road test it in Fusion. So we would go, we always did the first hour and last hour. So we did 10 to 11 and 11, 12, what? And then we did 2 till 3. So we did first hour and last hour. But if we were making hard house music or we made any tune, we would go to the club at maybe 9:30 and test it out in the club. So that was really the only time hard house was ever associated with Fusion.
Yeah.
So with the bounce thing, I couldn't really complain or anything. It was either get stuck with the trance that people know, but obviously recycle it every single week, and I didn't want to do that, or start to play this new stuff, which is still got a trancey element to it, this Scouse stuff, with the classic rework stuff, and just play stuff like that and kind of drip feed that in and take some of the trance away. We still kept a few really big trance tunes like Christine Blonde, Love Shy.
Yeah.
We tend to always play the Electronic Boutique, I think it is,
That's
like the original trance one.
It's a melody.
We would always stick with that rather than playing, the Rescue, the new Rescue version or whatever. That still worked, but we always like to have one or two, big tunes that we would play. Millsy would always play Toucan, like a Rainbow. He would always be known for playing that. So we still held on to a few, but for the most part, we ended up it just being, Scouse House, basically.
When I first started seeing you on, like I was a lot younger at the time, and I was still in school. When I first started seeing your name on flyers and stuff like that, obviously you go into like a kebab shop and there'd be like the latest Like,
Yeah.
what's going on in Fusion? It'd be like 4 weeks worth of.
Yeah, they always had a few on the same
Yeah.
flyer.
So it was always I'd always see your name, but it was always associated with, say, like Dance Factory or whatever
Yeah.
tour show one was on
Yeah.
at the time. So like, and I just thought you were a bounce DJ.
Yeah.
And then obviously as I get to know you, I discovered that you dabbled in the hard house stuff, and then I discovered your energy stuff later on.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh well, he's versatile. Like, do you know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, I tried to do, because obviously you don't want to take your work home with you. So if I'm in Fusion every weekend playing Scouse music and house music and all that sort of stuff, I don't really want to go home and still do the same thing. So it's nice to do something different.
Yeah.
So there was a point where hard house gigs started to take off, at least for me and Millsy it did. And
So what year was this then?
this was around about, well, just after In My House came out, so between 2004 and say 2007 or 2008, I did quite a lot in that time with Hard House. And the manager from Fusion used to get really bitchy about me not doing Fusion and now going to play somewhere else.
What was your first out of town gig?
My very first out of town gig was... do you know something? I don't even know. It must have been. Oh, I think it was from when we got In My House signed to the label. I don't really want to say the label, but we got it signed to the label. That label ran an event in Leeds. And they had us on. So I think that was the first time I officially played out somewhere. I had played at Fusion in front of, they had 1,000 people in there. Yeah. And you kind of get used to that. It's not as spectacular anymore. Like if you had a gig tomorrow and you went into a club and there was 1,000 people there, it would be an unreal gig. But if you do that every single week for 3 years... Yeah. It's just become...
It's the same thing, isn't it?
It's not...
It's mill, isn't it?
Yeah, so getting to go to, I think it was in Leeds or somewhere, getting to go there and play at a hard house gig to less people, but your name's on flyers and stuff like that. I'd done events in Fusion, but I'd never been booked to play out somewhere. I'd never travelled somewhere with records and stuff like that. So it was probably around 2004, and it was at Leeds for a hard house gig for, I think it was a launch night of the tune or something. It was something like that. But so yeah, and I think I got paid. I'm thinking now, it's all coming back to us. I think I got paid in a box of hard house tunes.
That's quite good.
I got offered. I think I got offered money, like 50 quid or something. Or do you want this massive box of hard house tunes? And because it was my first hard house gig and first hard house sign, and I was like, well, I'll take the tunes. I took the tunes, I think. So that worked out all right.
Definitely. Like, I think my first gig, honestly, first out of town one at least, I'm still waiting to be paid.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, oh man, it's a fucking horror story. It's like...
Oh, I've got plenty of gigs where I've went to, miles away and they're like, oh, we'll give you your bank details, and it's never happened.
Never materialised.
Yeah.
It's, I know the feeling, like, I've worked for a set promoter when I was first starting out, young, naive, and it was a good branded name, and I thought, you know what, this could be like my foot in the door for getting my name established and whatnot. And then it's come down to it. Went and done the gig, and it was sort of dead. And he'd be like, oh, I haven't got enough money to pay you and whatnot. And I was like, all right. He says, but I'll tell you something. I've got a gig on in Morecambe tomorrow, right? And I was like, right. He's like, if you come and do a set down there for me. I'll give you 100 quid, because at first I was getting 50 quid. He says, I'll give you 100 quid, and I thought, well, it's good exposure for me. Might be able to network with a few people and that. Got down there. Once again, there was about 30 people in the club, but bear in mind, it's the old. Can you remember? Have you ever been to the Carlton in Morecambe?
No, I don't think so.
It's quite a popular venue back in the day.
Yeah,
it used to be called the Empire, I think. And it's quite a big venue, and if you've got 30 people inside, it looks like you got 2 people inside. Like it's so what, it just waters it down. So there's like 30 people inside, and he come up to me and he was like, these bouncers are going to give me a hiding because I haven't got money to pay them either. And I just drove home and I thought, what the fuck? I still haven't been paid by him.
Yeah.
He's blocked me on Facebook since then, mind. But you know what I mean? It's one of them things.
I've been done twice by the same guy. So you got done once, then you got done over twice. You done your first gig, didn't get paid, and got promised to go down to another gig and get paid twice.
Yeah.
I fell for it 3 times.
Oh god.
I went to the second one, and I'm not sure if it was. In fact, the second one that I went to, the promoter had left early, and that was the excuse for number 2. I was like, right, you owe us 2 nights' wages, and one of the girls who was there said, oh, the promoter's left. He said he'll ring you tomorrow. So I was like, right, okay. I was in, I think it was Wales or somewhere like that, and I was staying in a hotel. And the next morning when I got up, the promoter guy called me up and said, if you can go to this other club in Wales, I'll meet you there and I'll give you 3 nights' wages. And I was like, right, well, I'm already in Wales, so, you know, I might as well do it. So I got there, did my set, and halfway through my set, somebody had let off pepper spray, CS gas bomb.
Wow.
So, have you ever been CS gas before?
No, I haven't.
The feeling, it goes from everything being normal to the top of your eyes and melting. That's what it feels like.
Disgusting.
That's why you've got to shut your eyes or pour stuff in your eyes. So the first thing I did was, I knew what it was because I knew the smell. I know what it smells like. First thing I did was knock the music off, pull my headphones out, got my CDs, and just left. I didn't do anything else. I just left.
Yeah.
So I waited outside, waited for the promoter to find out what was going on. And the manager was saying, can you come back in? I said, there's no chance. I'm not playing in a club that's just got pepper sprayed. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I just said, I just want my wages and I want to leave. And the manager was like, oh, you're going to have to see the promoter. I've already paid him. Well, where's he at? He's left. I was like, you absolute dildo. So I left and done a full weekend of 3 full nights. I was supposed to get 150 quid each night, 450 quid down the Swanee.
Yeah.
I had to pay the guy who took me. He was complaining about petrol money. I was screwed.
Your hotel's not as well.
Yeah, I didn't have much money on us. I thought I was getting wages. You know, you rely on wage. Sometimes when you're DJing, people just think all DJs have already got thousands in the bank, and it doesn't work like that. You're usually working from, you know, set to set sometimes, unless you've got
month to month, isn't it? That's what
yeah,
it is.
sometimes.
If that's your full, if your full time job is
like obviously I had Fusion and
Yeah.
you know, stuff like that, but it's sometimes you rely on DJ money, especially back then when you're first starting and stuff like that. So to do a full weekend and miss Fusion and have the manager known he's pissed off with us for not going to Fusion, and then travelling back from Wales with not having 450 quid, it's soul destroying sometimes. But back then, it's especially with most new DJs, it doesn't really affect you because it's a gig at the end of the day. I know you've lost money and you were promised money and stuff like that, but I think if I go back to that car journey home now and that promoter rang me up and said something like, I'm sorry I didn't pay you, but can you stop off at Manchester on your way home to play another gig, I probably would have done it, because at the time I just wanted to DJ.
Yeah.
And any money was, you know, extra money.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from, mate. We live in a time where now you can publicly out people and you can fuck their promotion up, but and I think that's why it's a bit more fair nowadays. Do you know what I mean? When it happened to me, it was sort of like probably 10 years ago now, and it's one of them things, isn't it? Like time goes by, and
especially with social media now, it would never happen.
Yeah,
like maybe it does happen, and promoters do screw DJs, but not to that extent anymore. I wouldn't have thought, because it's so easy to go onto Facebook now and say this guy, don't work for him. He owes us for 3 nights, and he's just an absolute lunatic. Yeah, don't trust him. You know that it would probably get through, and people would, you know, listen to it or whatever. But yeah, back then there was, I think I maybe had Bebo or MySpace. There was no real way to out somebody, and if you did, nobody would care, because half of the people probably wouldn't see it anyway. So,
yeah, exactly.
You know, I probably didn't have data on my phone to go and do this.
Nah, I know exactly what you mean. So, like, moving forward, sort of later 2000s, you actually built a name for yourself pretty fast, really, over a couple of like years. You would say so, like within locally, you were DJ Andy K, the sort of fusion guy, but outside of that, you were the hard house DJ as well. Like I remember seeing just videos online, like on YouTube and stuff like that, and it was just like you scratching and like you were known for that scratching thing, and as you say, like you had a good reputation for yourself, like locally and elsewhere.
I think a lot of it came from learning to scratch early, because especially with hard house, because it's so fast, it's kind of hard to scratch that fast. So me being a young buck who kind of already knew how to scratch and what the deal was with it, all I had to do was train myself to speed up my tempo.
Yeah.
10 BPM or whatever it was.
How did you learn it first? Because obviously we live in a world now where I could just go onto YouTube and it's like, oh, this is a baby scratch, or I don't know what they're called.
I was listening to a DJ Psy mix. Can't remember what it was, Bonkers or Hardcore Heaven or whatever it was that was out in 2001 or 2 or whatever. Because I had listened to his scratching so many times, it was to the point where I was moving my hand, following what he was doing, and thinking, that's got to be it.
Did you know that it was samples he was scratching?
I knew, because I was kind of already into DJing, and obviously when you cue up a record, before the first beat, there's a gap, isn't there? So it's nothing. So I would maybe, scratch with a kick drum or something like that, and I kind of figured out that it must be a sample, it must have a gap at the start.
Yeah.
This has got to be. So I would follow along to DJ Psy doing his little small routines, and
so you were learning at like 170, like, because obviously
I wasn't learning to scratch at 170. No, I was learning, just figuring out what was going on.
Yeah.
And figuring out that it's got to be, his hand has to be on this record with a sample, moving forwards and backwards at a certain amount of distance, and doing it in a specific time, and it's got to be within a space of kick drums or whatever.
Yeah.
I kind of just pieced all the information together.
Right.
And when I got my first set of decks, when I got my first set of techniques, it was on there where I kind of figured out small little DJ Psy routines. I think I was learning to hardcore scratch first, but it was very, very basic stuff like chirp scratches, just simple forwards and backwards and cutting it off.
Yeah.
And I was using the line switch, the old line switches on the old mixers.
I know you're.
And it always went from
phono to line, isn't it?
Phono was always on the right and line was on the left. So that meant if you were to scratch with that line switch and switch to a crossfader, your crossfader would now be in hamster mode, which is reversed. And that's why my crossfader's reversed or backwards, because I originally learnt with a line switch, because it would cut on and off really, really nicely. So it kind of escalated from there. And then I heard Bosch CD by Eddie Halliwell.
Right.
And the first time I heard that, he was scratching over the Dawn, I think it was, Tony DeVitt the Dawn.
Yeah.
That was the stepping stone for me to learn to scratch to trance music and that style of speed, 140 to 145 or whatever, to slow it down a little bit. When I first heard the Eddie Halliwell scratch, I was 110% convinced that it wasn't real, that he used some kind of computer or, mixer or something like that. And it was
just a timing and stuff like that?
No, it was the speed and the
technique.
It was the speed of what he was doing, and it was the amount of notes and dots he was getting in such a small space of time, because you've got to remember, all I knew at the time was flicking a line switch on and off. That was it. Two fingers on the line switch and doing one movement on, one movement off. I didn't know that you could grab hold of a crossfader and go into crab mode and flick it 4 times in this one space. In a space of a beat, I didn't know anything like that. And then we had a new promoter come into Fusion. He was called Clarkey. From Scotland, he was.
Mills, you mentioned him.
Yeah.
Is this he used to run in Scotland and Cavos? Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I'll tell you a Cavos story. That's quite funny. So Clarkey came to Fusion. He must have seen. I think he'd seen it on Clubvision when it was on TV. Remember when it went on there? He must have seen it on there and decided, that's a good spot to run a couple of events. So he came up. He had his event Utopia. Had some unbelievable and probably the best. He was probably one of the best promoters of that club. him and Marco had some,
I
and obviously
strongly
Dobby
believe-
put loads in.
I strongly believe that like promoting, do you know, like promoting an event, there's a skill to it.
Oh,
and I think a lot of people,
100%. Yeah, there's no way I could do it.
Can like,
I can barely get to a gig without getting stressed out.
yeah, no, but like you were saying about like how you picked up on scratching and stuff like that. The like the idea of marketing an event and everything like that. There is an art form to it. And there is, I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah, you've got to have a lot of patience.
Yeah. So for him to say, like, if you're a promoter in a club that is getting 1,000 people in regularly, he's obviously decent at what he does there. Like,
yeah, definitely.
So
Yeah, Clarky came up and put a couple of events on, and one of them was he booked Eddie Halliwell to come up, and I somehow magically got to warm up for him. So me being a fanboy, right after I'd finished, he went on, started scratching, and now I know what's going on.
Yeah.
Now everything's fallen into place. Now I've got something new to learn. I can learn some new stuff. I can learn how he does these things. So I tried for a while, and it didn't work out.
right.
And still to this day, I still can't scratch like Eddie Halliwell. People often say, "Oh, you can scratch just as good as Halliwell." It's like it's different. You don't understand. I can't. I'm not doing the crab thing that he's doing.
Yeah.
It's so unique of how this guy scratches. So I decided to develop my own way, and the way I developed it was when I heard Rob Kane CDs and John Neal CDs and heard the way they were doing their shuffles, and I understood that it was more of a record movement, which meant now if I still wanted to use the line switch at the top of the mixer to scratch and create amazing sounding shuffle noises that Halliwell does, but not the same.
Yeah.
It's now possible because most of the work is on the record side. So you're shuffling the record instead of crabbing the crossfader.
Right, yeah, okay.
The way Halliwell does it is he gets all of his notes and little shuffle noises mostly from the crossfader.
Yeah.
And he's not really moving the record or CD deck as much. He's kind of just going forwards and backwards at a really slowish pace and not shuffling the sound. So he does it that way, and John Neal and Rob Kane did it the other way. They were shuffling the record and just opening up the crossfader once and not having to, do anything funky with the crossfader. I just basically I just dissected John Neal scratching, and it maybe took me about 5 years. Didn't watch any tutorials. I don't think I met up with John Neal, or maybe it didn't take 5 years, maybe it only took 1 year or something, because not long after that I did a scratch battle with John Neal.
Yeah.
So
I can remember the flyer for that.
I kind of just dissected what John Neal was doing and what Rob Kane was doing, and maybe that was the start of seeing stuff on YouTube. I'll maybe show you a video, John Neal video on YouTube that he'd done. It was
I've seen it, mate.
like
I know.
bounce
Is it the one that got the reply from?
Yeah, he holds up his name or something, John Neal, and takes it away and does some.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I'd ever seen it, so that was always good. I could now see what's going on. I figured out some stuff. I decided that I'm never going to be able to scratch like Halliwell. I'm going to have to figure out another way. So I found this John Neal video, and from then I just grinded maybe 4, 5, 6 hours every single. What it's like when you get your decks. Back in the day, they're always on. They're always spinning.
They're always on, and you've always got time.
You've always got people in. You probably at the time I was living with my mum at Salterbeck, so. It was unreal. I had people in all the time. We were mixing for hours. Now I couldn't really do that. Now it's just not my thing anymore. I've done it all. I haven't really got time to switch my decks on and mix for 5 hours and, do all this stuff. I'd rather, get paid for the 5 hours instead. And scratch.
Makes sense, absolutely. So you were then sort of like, you've got the scratching down to an art and that, you met this Clarky. Where did you go from here? Obviously,
so I met Clarky. Clarky came before the In My House thing, 2004. Yeah. So if we skip back a couple of years, when Clarky came, it was maybe 2002 or something, 2001, 2002, around that time. I was doing all of Clarky's events. Because I was a resident of Fusion, like I say, I was the guy who was like, oh, he's always here, just, get him on, put him on first or something, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So because I was already in Fusion, when Clarky came up, I think he kind of I don't think he took pity on anybody. It was just we were residents in Fusion, so
yeah, you've got to.
He didn't have to.
Them, haven't you? You
he
can't
didn't
have
have to
locals
put us
working
on,
against you, do you know
but
what I mean?
he just did put us on. I don't know why he put us on. I don't know if it was people would come because we the locals would come because we were on or whatever. But anyways,
Absolutely.
put us on the first night. Me and Millsy, we did all right. And he said, right, I'll put you on all the time. So that was like, right, awesome. So he did maybe 4 or 5 events. Did the Halliwell event. And then somehow managed to line up 6 weeks in Greece. And he needed basically like a full promotion team. He needed himself, the promoter, a couple of DJs, a couple of fire breathers, promoters to go around with flyers and stuff like that. He needed everyone. He needed a big group of us, a big team. We would all go over. Everything was sorted out fine. So
you're there. How long are you there for? The season or a week, 2 weeks?
6 weeks.
6
we were
weeks,
there, right? Yeah. So Trippy Kev.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know Trippy Kev.
Oh man, I don't think I've spoke about this a couple of times, but it's not really out there. But
go on,
I'm gonna ask me. Fuck it, I'll just spill the beans. So basically, the DJs were me, Clarky. I'm not sure if Millsy came with us first or if he came second because I went over there twice.
Right.
So there was me as a DJ. There was Nelly as a DJ. Clarky was also a DJ and the promoter. There was a team of us. And Trippy Kev. Trippy Kev's the star of the show here.
He always is. I've just seen him in a rave when he's got them fucking sticks, man.
He was with us last week. I had a gig last week in Carlisle and he was with us. Lo and behold, took his pies out, you know what they are, like flashing things there, stealing the show on the dance floor. Everyone loved it. So anyways, I was 22 at the time. I was like, this is unbelievable. I'm going to Greece. I'm going to DJ in Greece. This is
made it?
That was it. I was like,
yeah.
that's unbelievable. Like, I don't have to pay for I'm getting my flights paid for.
Yeah.
I've got a hotel room. I think I had I was staying in an apartment above a kebab shop, which was even more convenient. So if I was ever hungry, I'd just walk down the stairs and get like an unreal kebab or whatever.
That's 22-year-old 5-star hotel,
It was perfect. There was now in the room. It was a shitty room. It was there was only a bed, a small fridge, no TV, nothing. No aircon, not like that. It was a dive, but it was fine. I was happy with it. I was in Greece. I didn't care. I just slept on the streets because it was nice and warm. Yeah. So we all went over, and obviously when you go somewhere to a different country or whatever, you always go nuts on the first night, don't you?
Yeah,
it's like,
right, mental.
We're going to go to the hotel, we'll drop our shit off, and we'll just go out and just get absolutely wasted. So that's exactly what we did.
Get out your system as well. If you're there for 6 weeks, get right out your system.
We went out, we all dropped our shit off in our hotel. No, actually, this was an actual hotel. I wasn't in the kebab shop. That was the second time. We were all in a hotel, like a big complex or whatever, and we all got rooms next to each other.
Ah, yeah.
So it was in like a big hotel complex,
workers' accommodation type thing.
Yeah, that type of thing, where all the holiday reps and stuff, all them lot leave. We got to our hotel, dropped all our shit off, and we had to walk down this giant hill before you get to the strip. Walk down a hill, and maybe there's another hill to another hotel up that way with more reps in, and then you go down the hill, turn left or right or whatever, and you're on the strip. So it's not hard to get back to the hotel from where we're drinking on the main strip.
Yeah.
So we all went out, got absolutely trolleyed for like 6 hours or whatever, and it was time to go home. Everyone was wrecked. We probably had like pills or coke and stuff like that. Everyone smoking weed and stuff. So everyone was trolleyed. I mean, we were fucked. Absolutely fucked.
Yeah.
Me, Clarky, and everybody else except Kev went back to our hotel. I think maybe Kev had pulled or he was just doing his own thing.
No,
or
it's just
whatever.
Kev, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, I've noticed I've had a crack with him in that, like on nights out, and then he's quite the Lone Ranger, isn't he? When it comes to it, like he'll just go off and do his own thing.
Yeah. So obviously Kev's a grown man. We don't need to look after him. He's fine. It's Kev.
Yeah.
We all went back to our hotels. Got into our hotels, went to bed, got up the next day. And I got woke up to Kevin walking in my room, scratches all down the side of his, like, one side of his face, black eye, clothes all ripped.
I'm laughing at it. It's not
Like,
funny, easy.
Pockets out, fucking one shoe on, maybe, you know.
Fucking hell.
And I'm like, Kev, what's happened? He said, I might have to leave. I'm like, what do you mean, leave? What have you done? Have you fucking murdered someone or something? He was like, nah, the holiday reps, they're all after us. And I'm like, what have you done, Kev? What's happened? He said, well, do you know that big hill that we walk up to the hotel? I said, yeah. He said, well, I walked up the other big hill next to it, and because both of the hotels kind of look similar, he walked to the wrong hotel, tried his key didn't work, so he went round to the front, and he thought his hotel room window was open. Obviously, he's read up. People leave the windows open. He was like, oh, that's obviously mine. Drunk as fuck at like 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
Climbed through the window and got into bed with a rep that was asleep, a holiday rep that he took most of his clothes off and got into bed with this holiday rep. So obviously this guy got up, thought he was getting robbed, battered Kev, threw all his clothes out, kept one of his trainers and said, you're not getting this back, and told him. Kev had obviously said, oh, I'm here with a promotion team, we're DJing for the next 6 weeks. And the rep had said to Kev, if you're not off this island by tonight, we're all just going to keep battering you. So Kev, day one, we got there. Kev was put on a flight back home, ordered off the island of Kavos.
That is class, that is class.
So that was, so you can imagine what it was like for us. Any holiday rep we seen, it was weird, because there was
They knew exactly who you were with as well, obviously.
And we, like...
That's proper typical of him, like... I just think it's funny.
Absolutely mental. He was day one as well. Day one, Kev, and you couldn't hold it together.
Hey, I'll have to send him this. He'll love it. He'll love it.
But I'm pretty sure that I'm almost certain when we did the 6 weeks, or we did a couple of weeks. I can't remember, but I know we went back because I can remember being in the kebab shop room. That was when we went back. I'm pretty sure Kev came back with us. He took the chance and came back, and he was like, I want to come back. I'll just take the chance. If they're there, I'll just leave or whatever. But he came back, and obviously it must have been different reps or whatever. It was maybe the next year or something. And it was fine. We did our thing, and Kev didn't get kicked off. It was all good. But I'm pretty sure he was there. I don't know if he was there. I think he was just there as a promoter. Like, his job, along with my job, because I ended up getting roped into doing it. Because I simply thought I was a DJ. I thought I could live the high life all day and just DJ. But obviously, you've got to pull your weight, and you've got to get up at like 5 and post flyers on the street before the shops open, because they don't like it if you're doing it. Cops come round and they tell you to take the flyers down or whatever. So we would get up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock before everyone else, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah. When the strip's quiet and everyone's gone home, and the shops, there's like, you get a little hour window in between everyone going home to bed and the shops opening back up in the morning. So we would have to get up and, go up and down and fly in. There was me, Kev, and whoever else was there. Obviously, Clarky didn't do it because he was the boss, so he was, swanning about on quads or whatever.
Living the high life.
Yeah, we actually rented quads while we were there. And they took our passports off us, and within, 3 minutes, Clarky had totaled his quad and writ a bus off with it. And because at the time he was quite successful, he still is now. He's got a shop fitting business, so that's what he does. He fits like shops, and he's got a full construction business. So that was now to him. They had all our passports, and we were freaking out, thinking we weren't going to get them back because he just writ a bus off and totaled his quad. But now he just pulled his checkbook out and said, how much do you want? And they said a number, and there you go, give us our passports back. It was fine, so it worked out all right. Mate.
So we're back on the end of Greece.
Yeah, so we did, when Kev got kicked off, we did our thing, did the flyer and did a few clubs. We did a couple of little bars and stuff. It was... I think what Clarky did was he tried to cram as much work as possible in that he could for us all. So he maybe had a little bar gig for a couple of us DJs to run all day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, we had a couple of different clubs. I'm sure we got Lisa Pinup. It was definitely Lisa Pinup and somebody else. We had to go to the airport to pick them up.
Right,
and I'm
Millsy
almost
was there because
he
Millsy
was.
told me the story.
Did Millsy have to go and pick him up and they were on a quad or so? I can't remember. I don't think I was there.
They nearly crashed the vehicle.
Yeah, that was for then. I didn't go to pick them up, but yeah, Millsy was with us the second time, so that's when we went back. So we came back home, and I'm not sure if we went the year. We must have went the year later. I don't think we went back twice in a summer, or maybe we did. I can't remember.
Yeah,
but I know we did maybe 3 weeks and then 6 weeks, or it was the other way around, 6 weeks and 3 weeks. I can't remember. But yeah, Millsy came with us the second time, and I'm pretty sure Kev was with us then.
Brilliant, brilliant.
So honestly, it was such a laugh. It was so good at the time because it was something new for me as well. It was something. I think it was the first time I'd ever been out the country on a plane and in a hot country and all that stuff. You know.
Do you want to know something? Like, and I've said this today to someone, and this is just in life as general. Like, I hope somebody listens to this and thinks, "Oh, this is relatable." Right? Nobody has a fucking clue what they're doing. But you see people and they can give you, like, you can see a 60-year-old man and he can give you life experiences and tell you what he's done. But everyone's learning every day.
Yeah, you've got to experience everything yourself. Yeah. Like there's no way I can, or none of us can sit here and paint a nice picture and it work out for the person listening. It's never going to be the same. You have to go through your own struggles and stuff like that.
Yeah. Not everyone's is the same, and what I think is, like you saying, it was all new for you at the time.
Yeah.
Like you get these people who are like, oh, I go out and do every season, blah blah blah. Every season's new and it's different. They're not experiencing the same thing every time.
No.
Like new experiences. That thing with Kev could have happened that one time, and it maybe not happen another time, and like
yeah, of course,
it's all brand new, and it's life lessons. And one thing I wanted to touch on like with this podcast is like, not everybody will have the experience to be able to go and play abroad or out like that, or it doesn't mean you're not necessarily successful or like that. But what I'm saying is, it's like everyone's got their own goals now, like that. And if you don't meet them, it's maybe just not the right time and place for you.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm only saying this now because obviously you've touched on the Greece thing. I touched on something else in the last podcast about DJing abroad and stuff. It's not necessarily you don't need to do it.
Me going to Greece after that happened, that did nothing. It didn't boost my profile.
It
didn't raise my cachet. I wasn't getting paid more. It did nothing. It was just something that I could say that I've done. That's all it was. Like, it was nice to do it and nice to be on, because to me, I was getting paid to go on holiday. That's how I seen it. Getting paid to go on holiday, do a little few hours work in the morning and go and DJ at the weekend. And that was it. That was it for me.
Think, though, like, I'm not saying your story in particular, but when you try and you see people who live on Instagram or on Facebook, and it's like, oh, like, I'm a big time DJ. Like, they don't say that in particular, but they'll get the picture tucked next to a flashy car.
Yeah,
and it's like, not everyone's life is nobody's life's like that. It's actually fair.
To be fair, that person who got their picture took in front of that car, their life was like that for the amount of time they were in front of that car. When they left that car, their life isn't that life anymore.
Yeah. Or I'm just getting a private jet to this.
Yeah, that's gig. Your life for that private jet or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, obviously you can see why they do it, because it paints that nice picture of what this DJ is going through. And that, to be honest, when you get to that level, like the level of Ben Nicky and David Rust and, you know, guys like them, that's just, it just comes with it. It comes with it. You're now not getting a hire car to drive yourself down, stuff like that. So obviously it's nice, but it's not everything. It is nice to have that, but it's the main goal.
We were talking, weren't we, off pod about your goals and like, what do you set yourself? Like, not everyone's got the same goal, and like, not everybody wants to be that person. I wouldn't want that lifestyle. I know for a fact my missus wouldn't want me to have that lifestyle.
When I first started, my aim wasn't to be a massive DJ making thousands and thousands of pounds. Like most
Yeah.
people might say that's obviously what you strive for, but for me, I just wanted a couple of little things. I wanted to headline an international gig, which I did.
Yeah.
I wanted to get a tune out on a record, a vinyl release, which I did. And I wanted something out on a album CD that you could buy in somewhere silly like
Like a
Tesco's
Morrison's,
or
yeah, yeah,
Morrison's,
yeah,
and I hit all three of them. I got to headline a show in Canada when I went over there. That was it. As soon as I'd done that in 2006, I didn't lose interest, but I was fine.
Did you feel fulfilled?
Yeah, I was fine with anything extra that I got after that.
Yeah.
I was like, right, I think I've got what I needed. So now, over the past couple of years, I've had promoters asking me if I want to go Wales to DJ, Manchester, and these kind of smallish gigs. And most of the time, when they mention that it's for very little to no money, my reply is usually, give the gig to somebody else who will appreciate it more than I will. Because I don't want to turn up at your club knowing I'm not getting paid and be in a bad mood. Like, it's horrible to say, but I don't need to do that anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
And I can remember back when I started, I appreciated any gig, whether it pays or not. And I know what it felt like to have that. And I wouldn't want to take that away from somebody else who can do exactly the same gig that I've just turned down, but you know, feel unreal about it for the next few months afterwards.
Could be their highlight of their career as well.
Exactly. It could be their way in. It could be anything like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not that I don't want to DJ anymore. It's just I've kind of limited myself to just doing maybe
What you want to do.
6 or 8 gigs a year is fine for me. Like, I'm not really interested in, you know, traveling hours and hours and hours and hours and hours to play somewhere for it to just boost my profile. I don't need it boosted anymore. I'm not looking to be a DJ. So I'm literally just in my own little world now, do a few reworks of some classics that I like from back in the day. And I do a bunch of scratching lessons. I'm happy. I'm good. I am good now.
Right, well, we're going to finish this up, and I'm probably going to ask you on pod, but I'll tell you something, like, we're going to make a part 2 of this because we're only scratching the surface. I feel like it anyways.
Oh, I've got loads more to tell you. I've got tons more.
For this episode, but I'll be honest with you, like, I feel like we've covered very little, but also a lot at the same time.
It's just because I've rambled on, honestly.
No,
like,
it's not even rambling.
To me,
people want to hear this part.
Yeah, like I said to you before, if you ask me a question, I go through my little Homer Simpson type brain, and it'll just opens a can of worms, and I just go off on one. I can talk.
But this could be a 2-parter easy.
Yeah.
I just want to close it up with.
Yeah.
I've asked everybody else, what is your 3 favourite tunes? I want to change it round for you a bit.
Right, okay.
What's your 3 favourite tunes you've produced?
That I've produced?
Can be any genre that you've done.
Right, well, because I'm sat next to my computer, just let me just open up a folder so I can see them all.
I can chop this bit off.
Number 1, DB Boulevard, Point of View. Done that maybe last year. That's probably my favourite rework I've ever done, just because it's got everything in it that I like, and it did well as well, and it's still getting played now, so I like that one. Kathy Brown, Turn Me On, rework. That one's kind of doing all right. And a techno tune called Incoming File Transfer. Its title name is KOS. It's still me and another lad done it, Sean Wilson.
Right.
It was the one I was talking to you about that Billy Gillies started playing. And then David Russ started playing it, Ben Nicky started playing it, and everyone wanted it after that. So yeah, they're probably my 3 favourites, yeah. Turn Me On rework, DB Boulevard, and KOS Incoming File Transfer.
Right, and to sign off, right, this is I asked everyone this. Yeah. If you have a Chinese meal for one.
Right, I live next door to a Chinese, Double Happiness. They do a banging Singapore chow mein, go on.
Go on, what's your meal for one?
Meal for one.
It can be where they can be as big and as little as you want.
Well, I'm only small. I can't really eat that much. Well, I can eat a little bit, but I don't really order loads. Singapore chow mein.
Fucking class choice, by the way.
I asked them to make me sweet chili and garlic sauce because it doesn't come with garlic. So I asked them to chop up some garlic. Yeah, put some garlic in.
Nice.
And maybe some like egg fried rice to go with it, and salt and pepper chips.
You don't eat much. You've just ordered all that.
No, but the thing is, I'll split it into 2 meals. I'll eat some. Probably,
obviously.
Do some work.
That's probably the best choice I've had so far.
Yeah, Singapore chow mein's banging out of there.
Class. I just want to thank you for coming on, mate.
Oh, nice. It's been awesome, mate. I could talk for hours.
Is there anything you want to plug out like that? Where can people find your music at?
SoundCloud /Andy K DJ. You can go to, just send me a message if you want any tunes, and I'll just send them, because that's all I do every day. People just ask me for tunes and I just send them straight away within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Gigs. I've got a couple of gigs coming up. I can't really say where they are. I can tell you where they are. I can't really say what the events are yet because I'm not really supposed to say any. Yeah. But I've got a possible big gig in Belfast, and I've got a confirmed massive gig in Scotland. Right. But that's not for a while, and that's going to be absolutely huge. Can't wait for that one. Yeah. And I've got my next gig isn't until next month in Sheffield. I'm doing a closing set for Saturday Sessions. They've got David Nimmo headlining. He's an Unreal trance producer and a super nice guy. Yeah. Lucas de Jong, he's from Poland. He has just had a release out on Damaged, Jordan Suckley's label. Yeah. I forget what the tune's called. There's a few other DJs, and I'm doing a closing set for that event. So that's going to be the first time I've closed the set after. I'm going to be playing a little bit harder than what I produced. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. Give us some inspiration to make some.
Are you going to play that tune that you showed us just then?
Possibly.
I'd close with that for sure.
Yeah, possibly some. Yeah, it will end up like that hard with a techno vibe at the end and stuff. So right. So that should be good.
Nice one.
But yeah, apart from that, we're good.
Nice one. I appreciate you coming on, mate. Thank you very much. That was phenomenal.
Nice.